We have spent most of our lives in some of the most dangerous places on the planet. But with you, there's nothing else. What are you running away from?
We're journalists. We're good at it.
Well, it was a really funny story, actually. Would have been about 2020, 21, I think. Got a phone call out of the blue from Carmel Travers, the producer. And she said, "Hi, Creve. My name's Carmel Travers. I'm producer. I've optioned Peter Grester's book. Do you know anything about Peter Grester?" And I laughed. I said, "I do, actually. We actually met when we were children. And my father and Peter's father are friends. They're also Latvian and from Brisbane. So it's a very small community. And as I said, I met Peter when I was a little boy, and we were both kids. And so when the story broke 10 years ago, it was big news, obviously nationally, but also amongst our families. So I followed it very closely. And Carmel didn't have to say much. I said, "Yep, I'm on board." And that was even before reading a script. Yeah, so I was immediately pulled in.
Yesterday's massacres and trying to instigate a media blackout have infuriated the rest of the Egyptian people.
These protesters are making it very clear how willing they are to defy the government.
Peter Grester, Al Jazeera.
Who is it?
Mr. Peter?
Yes, who are you? Are you police?
It's time to go.
When I was working with Peter Duncan, the writer, I already knew that Peter Duncan and Peter Grester had spent a lot of time on the script, and that Peter Grester had vetted a lot of the material in the script.
Right, okay.
And so I felt when I got given the script, I felt like it was really coming from a real place of truth and integrity. So I felt like everything that was in the script was obviously pre-approved. So it gave me a lot of confidence in the material. Yeah.
Now, I assume you didn't film in Egypt for obvious reasons. Where was the film? It was all shot here, wasn't it?
It was all shot in Sydney.
Yeah. Okay.
We shot primarily sort of three main locations: Parramatta Jail, Callan Park, and Manly Barracks. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
It looked terrific. I mean, it was
Thank you.
Seamless, really amazing.
Well, we sort of decided to cut our cloth a particular way. It's very much shot on a 50mm lens, because I knew that the camera would only need to see a particular section or slither of this world, and we just reverse engineered the film from that point of view. From that point on, like everything was, we're going to see this direction and that direction, and then we threw everything into making sure that looked as credible and as realistic as possible.
I need to know what you said in your statement.
They know where I live. They know I have a child. Just wanted to go home.
Hello, sir.
This whole world's bloody insane.
Dad, you're not helping.
Al Jazeera is a terrorist organization, and these are their agents.
Rami Muhammad wa Peter Griffith. Killed Tahir Muhammad. 7 years.
An upshot of filming here, I'd imagine, is that you got to work with so many Arabic heritage actors, and they are wonderful in this film. Rahel is just extraordinary. But was that a great experience?
It was. Like I'd worked with Rahel 10 years prior to this, which was on a show called The Principal, which again had a big Middle Eastern cast in it. And the great thing about Sydney is that it's got a very deep and wide Middle Eastern diaspora. So people were saying, when we began the film, going, "Oh, how are you going to cast this? It's going to be really difficult to find Arabic-speaking actors." And it was actually the opposite. We were robbed for choice. A lot of time, I was 3 deep into roles, so I could pick and choose who I wanted to, because there is such a huge pool of talent out there, and all of these people have such diverse backgrounds and such rich histories. And what was great was casting the film accumulatively to create this really authentic, realistic world. And that was one of the pleasures of making the film.
Can you talk a little about working with Richard? He's wonderful in the role, and he's obviously a fascinating character.
Yeah, well, I'd worked with Richard prior to the film I made before this one, Danger Close. And Richard had a supporting role in that, and I worked with him for a week on that, and that was such a pleasurable experience. Richard is such a wonderfully skilled and experienced actor. It's like driving a Rolls Royce. You know, it's just smooth as silk. He just parks on the spot, and it's like everything is sort of effortless. And you know, when Peter Duncan said, "Look, I've got an idea for who should play Peter Grester," and I went, "Who?" And he went, "Richard Roxburgh," and I kind of went, wow, yeah, it was kind of like right in front of us. And once I'd met with Richard, and once I told him, listen, I don't want you to do an impersonation of Peter Grester, I want you to do an interpretation of him. That immediately opened the doorway up, and we were able to kind of have the liberty to kind of, as I said, you know, it's not a photograph, it's a painting. And Richard was able to kind of really embrace the character and bring his skills and his gravitas and his humility and his just his empathy to the role.
We're from Al Jazeera. We're journalists, not Islamists.
So what were you doing with the Muslim Brotherhood?
Interviewing politicians. But that's what journalists.
We're journalists.
Why are you not accredited?
Because accreditation was going to take 4 weeks, and I'm only here for 3.
What is your license for operating all this equipment?
Okay, this equipment is standard media equipment that doesn't require a license.
Why do you work for Al Jazeera?
Can I please go back to my room?
You will not be returning to your room.
Peter Duncan and Richard obviously have such a rich history, you know.
Yeah.
Is it a bit like coming to a party that's already started or something? I don't know. Is it a weird kind of energy to walk
Yeah, well,
into?
I'm just yeah, it is a party. I was just glad I was invited and they let me in. You know, it's fantastic because there is a certain sort of shorthand or I guess a trust that was there that was lovely, and you know, because Richard had worked with Peter and knows Peter's writing like back to front. There was a lot of we were able to kind of work with the script and sculpt it. The script obviously is always really important, but you know, we're able to use it as a starting point sometimes, like a piece of music, and riff off it and improvise with a little bit. Not that we improvised the film, but there was a lot of flexibility because Peter Duncan, such a great writer, and Richard knew the writing so well, he was able to kind of work within it in a really fluid way.
You've done a lot of topical films, very contemporary films. Is that something that really appealed to you about this? It's really timely, probably more timely now than when Peter actually went through this ordeal. Does it feel like that to you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, you always, you know, whenever you kind of choose to kind of tell a story, you always try and find some kind of lock on it, some kind of emotional, you know, meaningful lock on it. And the fact that I knew Peter was one lock, but the other one was that, you know, this is, I guess, what I liked about the story was it was an Australian story, and it's an Australian film, but it was very much an international story. And that really excited me to sort of do something that was made here, but that had this kind of big scope and was about something really important, and it had this kind of universality to it that really excited me, because that's what you want to do. You want to make stories that sort of speak to a big audience, and I guess now that, you know, the way the world is heading, and what's happened since, you know, even since October 7, you know, the fact that journalists are being killed for doing their job, the fact that the UN now call it one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. The fact that we're now looking into an America that's becoming more and more terrifying. You know, these ideas, a film that just even reminds people what the importance of journalism, the importance of democracy, the importance of freedom of speech. Even if the film reminds people of that, it's done its job.
Do you seek out projects like this on that base? Is that important to you? If it's more topical or contemporary, is that a concern, or is it literally just a project by project?
It's a project by project. It's really stories. Yeah. It's really a story that, you know, it can be anything. It can be a comedy, it can be a horror film, it can be sci-fi, it can be a war movie, you know, or it can be this. It's always that thing of like finding a connection to it. and then a key, as I said, like some kind of, as a director, of some kind of formalistic key that allows me, I know how to do this, I know how to pull this off. All of that combined creates the passion and the fire to do it. So to me, I'm very agnostic about the stories I want to tell. You know, it's whatever works, whatever genre is right, or you know that excites me. So I feel, you know, I'm pretty open-minded.
Yeah. And you're working on very, very large canvases now. Does it feel a long way from Boxing Day?
Yes and no. You know, I mean, this film was. You know, it was a proper feature film with, you know, a big crew, and, you know, we had a fairly healthy schedule. But all films are difficult. All films are, you never have enough time. You never have enough money. And you're always reverse engineering. But that's also what I love about it. I love the challenge of trying to pull something off, no matter what the scale is. It's always a creative and logistical challenge. And that's, you know, why I'm a filmmaker, because that problem solving is a creative act. And that's what I love about movies, is that every film I watch, I'm amazed at what the director or the filmmakers do to achieve the film. And I love that. I love that engagement. I love the medium for that.
Just quickly before I have to let you go, but
Yeah.
do you have a secret for how you work so often and so frequently and successfully?
Well, I look at success. Success is a very abstract thing in a way. You know, you can define success by box office. You can define success by critical acclaim. You can define success by the money you make or whatever. To me, success is very simple. If I'm working, I'm successful. And that's how I've kind of...
You're very successful.
Thank you.
I'm nervous as I write this. I've been caught in the middle of a multi-headed political struggle. So our arrest here is not a mistake.
Your letter was very good. There'll be repercussions.
Your voice is becoming an echo chamber in the West.
I can no longer pretend it'll go away by keeping quiet.
We will never give up.
As a journalist, this is my battle.